anyway, back to my coworker story. So she had to go talk to her lawyer, and I was like, oh, why the you had to go to a lawyer? And she was basically telling me that essentially, so like what the drama was essentially boiled down to for her was that so like her father passed away. I don't know how long ago it was. I think probably a few years ago based on what she had said. And so he left things in his will for everybody, including some stepkids that are not biologically his. He like left a portion of his inheritance to everyone in the family, including these kids who are just basically not his. They have their own biological parents and everything. He technically didn't need to, but he did it anyway because they're part of his family. And so my coworker, who is a biological daughter of this of her, you know, the father that had passed away, she was also, you know, entitled to a bit of the inheritance, of course, at least in the will. But basically the rest of the family, for whatever reason, decided to suddenly spread this narrative that she has been disinherited, that she is you know, not a part of the will. She doesn't deserve any of the inheritance. She basically, like, they're just trying to like essentially just tell her and bully her that she's just not allowed any portion of the inheritance money. And I was like, what? That doesn't seem very legal to do, because I thought what you were supposed to do is follow the will. And supposedly, this is actually apparently quite a common problem. And I didn't realize how bad of a problem this could be, because I know sometimes it gets used in drama where people are like fighting over the will. Apparently this also does happen in real life, for real, unironically. So basically they're kind of just trying to bully her and basically tell her, yeah, no, dad never included you in the inheritance. By the way, that house that you own in this one area, that is part of dad's, because apparently he's like I don't know, I forgot what it was. But basically he like a real estate person. He did a billion things with like owning a bunch of buildings and things, so it sounds like he actually might be pretty damn rich, in my opinion, because he had a lot in property. And they were basically saying that like the house that she lived in belonged to their estate, because and that she's basically just renting it out, but it technically owns to the estate, is what they're claiming. But in reality she has whatchamacallit, her name is on the mortgage. Her father's name was nowhere on the mortgage, and the only reason these people are claiming that is because she was already pre-approved for a house when she was trying to get her own place. And when she was looking and shopping around, basically her dad basically went, hey, if you let your sister move in with you, I will go ahead and, you know, I want you to get a bigger house, and I will go ahead and give you some extra money for your down payment. And she was like, okay, sure, fine. And so that's what she did. She looked for a bigger house instead, to go accommodate her dad's wishes, which is to have one of her sisters live with her. And she's like a person with like a really big family, like a huge family, way bigger than my family, that's for sure. And so she went ahead and accommodated that, and then so she got some money from her dad as down payment for the house. And that's why a lot of people were assuming that like, oh well, because like she said that like one of her brothers, for instance, who is an engineer, and he has like, you know, he's really rich, basically because he's an engineer who's successful, and lives in an expensive area. He's like, hey, so dad never gave me money for my house. And she's just kind of like, yeah, okay, but I didn't ask dad for the money, he just gave it to me. And also like I didn't need dad's money to get the house, is what she was basically saying. But like the brother was just so salty about it. And so I think part of the whole thing is, so like, you know, she gets the house and she like has her mortgage and everything, and then basically the other people are trying to claim, oh, it's part of the estate because dad helped you pay for it, so therefore dad owns it, so therefore it's part of the estate, and therefore it's going to be part of the inheritance. And they basically want to sell it, and they want to sell it and then liquidate the money and then as part of the inheritance. And also remember that they say that she's disinherited, so she doesn't deserve any of that money. So keep that in mind. This shit's all fucked up. So she's like, okay, what the fuck? And then basically like a lot of them were basically like, oh well, she'll never go ahead, she won't, like basically like she's thinking that a lot of them basically are trying to bully her because they thought like she's not usually confrontational, she doesn't usually want to escalate things, for instance, but so like they thought that she wouldn't get a lawyer, but in the end she did get a lawyer, because for her, she told me it's the principle of the matter. It's the fact that she doesn't want to basically roll over and accept that her dad disinherited her from the will, because she's like, dad would never do such a thing, and she's like extremely adamant about it, because apparently her relationship, from what I heard from her perspective, obviously, is that her relationship with her dad was really good. They did like a pseudo book club thing where they would essentially read a book, send it to one another and be like, hey, I think you'll like this, and he would reciprocate and be like, hey, I read this book, I think you'll like this. And then at some point it devolved into them being like, hey, you know what, why don't we just like both pick out a book we're interested in and then go and read it and talk about it you know, in a week from now or something like that. And so that's what they did. And so like, and there are other things too where it sounds like he called her often. They apparently talked 3 times a week, and basically they just had a really good relationship. And I think other people were jealous of their book club. And then she was like, well, I'm not trying to gatekeep it from you. If you guys want to join, you just got to like, you know, read these books with us and just like be willing to talk about it with us. And a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't really want to read that book, you know? And they're like, well, okay, well, then that's why you guys aren't invited, because you don't want to read the book that we're going to read. But she wasn't trying to gatekeep it. She was just like, this is what me and dad like want to do, you know? There's no way if you like truly hated your fucking daughter that you would participate in this book club. Okay, you wouldn't do the book club thing, you wouldn't reciprocate, you wouldn't even call each other 3 times a week. And like even when like say, so there's like the stepmom, apparently she has a fucking hate boner for my coworker, because she fucking, I think she's just like mildly a control freak. And she was really upset that she doesn't have a say in a lot of decisions that are made. And like I think she was also probably jealous because my coworker understood her father well, whereas like the stepmom, you know, apparently like I don't think they were together for very long with the stepmom and like the father, so I don't think she like truly like grasped everything. And also part of me, as somebody who doesn't know anything about this family, kind of wants to think that maybe she like got into this whole relationship because like she's like a gold digger, but like, you know, that's just me. Because like it didn't seem like something very good, but I'm only hearing from one perspective, and it's very obvious my coworker does not like her, and likewise the stepmom does not like her either. And the stepmom is the reason why the entire family is trying to essentially shit on my coworker. And basically like they apparently have sent email chains like CCing her on it and basically shit talking her and being like, oh, ha ha ha, the coworker would never, I mean, I'm not saying the name for obvious reasons, but they're like, oh, like they'll never go ahead and get a lawyer, they won't do shit, we're just gonna say we disinherited them. And like they're basically like, I think like either because like it sounded like they're shit talking her, and either they CC'd her on accident or they're doing it on purpose to try to get a rise out of her. By the way, she doesn't really fall for it. And she just went ahead, got a lawyer, and was like, no, because I don't believe dad disinherited me. I think you guys are full of shit, essentially. And also because like they're trying to take her house away, and she's like, no. And also this family might have committed tax fraud, because they were claiming that since it was a rental property under the estate, that it had to, that they're getting like deductions for that or something like that, or like claiming the depreciations. I don't understand all that because I don't have a house, I don't know how this works, but that, based on what it says, like they basically put it on their taxes to try to get some benefit out of it. And if that's true, that's tax fraud because the house does not belong under them. So Yeah, so she's like trying to get to like the bottom of everything, and like with her lawyers, and like her lawyers are like, she told me it was like $350 an hour, and I'm like, holy shit. I didn't know. I knew lawyers were expensive, but I didn't realize they're that expensive, you know? Just telling me like it's a headache, and essentially what they deduce is like this takes place over 3 different states, Arizona, Oregon, and California, because I think that's where all 3 of the main family members resides or whatever. And it was determined in each state that the other people within the family had no claims over her rent or over her house. So everything that they claimed is false about their supposed rental property, and it was deemed in each of the courts that like they don't have a claim over her property, that it's not a rental property, that it belongs to her. And essentially they're still trying to like, you know, fight about it. I think they're trying to settle essentially, and the agreement of the settlement for the last one, which I think was in California, which is she was basically like, yeah, I basically agreed, you know what, I want this to be over with. So if all you guys care about is the money that dad gave me for the down payment, I will just go ahead and give you guys the money back. And so that way we can just be over it, because that way, like, you know, it's basically as if dad never gave me money in the first place, is basically what she was trying to sum it down as. And so they apparently reached that agreement. And then the last thing that she had to do is to get the address to where she's going to send the money to, and crickets, absolutely nothing. The people on the other part of the family have not responded to where she needs to put it. And she's like, hey guys, like, I just want this to be over with. Apparently it's been 3 years. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means like 3 years since the settlement, 3 years since this entire thing started, but she's apparently fed up with it. And then apparently her next steps essentially were kind of like, you know, her lawyers are possibly thinking about possibly suing for, I think, breach of judicial trust or something like that, and like possibly like emotional damages or whatever. And I basically like was like, oh yeah, you should definitely sue, because you know what, then you can get your lawyer's fees paid. You should sue for real, because it sounds like she has a bunch of things like ready, and like kind of like, you know, she has a bunch of evidence of them like basically scheming against her, shit talking her, being horrible people to her. And she has paperwork obviously that she's the only one on the mortgage, her dad's not anywhere on there, that, you know, nowhere in the will is it explicitly stated that she's been disinherited, that she's been excluded from the will. None of that is ever on there. So I'm pretty sure she has a good strong court case if she wants to sue. And I'm like, you know what, you should just sue, fuck it. Because it's clear that your family, for whatever reason, fucking hates you. You know what? Fucking goes out gun a-blazing. Fuck all of them, bro. And like, yeah, it sucks that she even has to do this in the first place, but like, for all the bullshit they're putting you through, nah, girl, fucking own it to them, bro. But yeah, so there's other things about the stepmom too that she was basically saying, whatchamacallit, that her stepmom has like, there were some instances where she was like, hey, she like called up one day and was like, hey, we need to know your tax info and we want you to send it to our tax guy or accountant or whatever. And she was like, and I'm pretty sure this was like when she was like they were trying to like originally write off the house as part of their thing, and they were just like, hey, can you just go ahead and, you know, send us your tax information out of the blue and just send it to this guy, we'll get it sorted out on the back end. And she's like, no, why would I send you my tax information? Because I don't send anyone my tax information. I don't know what you're gonna do with that. And like, you know, tax information has a lot of private details, like your social security number, all sorts of things. And like, if you have someone's tax for a year, you can technically, I think, do stuff for next year too, because it's all based on your previous tax report. I don't know how it works, but something like that. And it's just overall bad. She's like, no. And then the stepmom was like, oh, well, don't worry, I mean, like, your dad is the one who wanted to have the information. And then so my coworker was like, okay, well, if dad is the one who wants it, go put him on the line, go tell him that, you know, if he wants me to do these things, have him on the line so then I can hear it from him directly. And then the stepmom apparently like got flustered at that and was like, oh, you know, your father's really busy and everything. You know, you we don't have to bother him. And she's like, no, you have to go put him on the line. And she's like, and then she got all huffy and apparently like fucking like was like, oh, you know what, never mind, well, I'll get back to you later about this, don't worry about it. And then she like hung up and like with a really loud click. So like it's clear that the stepmom, and like there's other stories too that she said that like kind of all were kind of like this, so it's kind of clear the stepmom is trying to be like manipulative here. And I think there's like another thing too. She was telling me like in one of the emails that she was sending to the family to basically shit on my coworker, was that she was trying to like, the stepmom was trying to victimize herself. She has like that whole victim complex thing, you know, the people who like always constantly victimize themselves and they're like never the problem. Yeah, imagine that kind of personality. So this bit, I forgot the exact details because like, you know, I'm regurgitating from what I heard over a 2-hour conversation. She's trying to blame my coworker for like, not the reason why her father died, but like the reason why there's like so much grief or whatever. I don't fucking know. I just remember her just like trying to shift the blame, and like she said something that I was like, holy shit, that's extremely manipulative. And like, I don't like that at all. I was like, what the fuck? Who the fuck says that? I forgot what it was, so I can't remember what it was, but it was really bad. Trust me, it was bad. And my coworker out here is just saying this so fucking nonchalantly, and I'm like, girl, are you okay? But yeah, so basically stepmom super manipulative, super victimizing herself constantly for literally no reason. She's literally just trying to shift the blame on everything onto my coworker, and basically is like, oh, this is the reason why like dad doesn't fucking love you or whatever, or doesn't want you on the will or something. And it's basically just kind of like just random bullshit, and I'm just like, oh my god, what the fuck is wrong with her? Why do these people hate you? And she's just so calm talking about her fucking family drama, and I'm like, girl, are you okay? Because it kind of sounds like everyone in your family's kind of either doesn't like you or is like constantly full of drama. Because then here's the other bit that she shared with me, was, you know how she had that sister that like she had to go find a bigger house to have the sister to live with her? So she was telling me about that next. And basically, because I do vaguely recall some moments there when the sister was actively living at her location, that she was kind of complaining about her. She's kind of vague talking her, kind of being like, man, like, you know, she seemed like really annoyed and exhausted. And I was like, are you okay? I heard about some stuff in passing, but she was telling me here, you know, like during that time, I don't know how long they were living together, but basically the agreement of the deal was her sister, who is younger than her, apparently 28. So, okay, I'm not going to dox my age. It's fine. A 28-year-old woman was living with her older sister in this house, and the agreement was that she would live there and she would not have to pay rent, she would not have to pay any utilities, just basically she gets to live there rent free and just chill essentially. But then it turns out that this sister is a hoarder. She had a billion shit, and she had 2 rooms in the downstairs that were meant for her, and she had all her stuff in those 2 rooms and the garage, and the entire living room and dining room was full of her stuff, was according to my coworker. And my coworker was specifically complaining about, because like, so her sister apparently is like super into like crafting or whatever, and she had a apparently super emo, I suppose, because everything that she got would be spray painted black. Like apparently everything was like pretty much black. And I'm like, okay. She was, I think, pretending to be disabled, I believe, is what happened. So there was a case where, like, you know, she wasn't disabled before. And then there was an incident where she had to, like, she, like, somehow broke her thigh bone. And had to get surgery and everything. And then had to take a little bit of, like, you know, was disabled because of that. So she did have like, oh, apparently it was because she was walking a lot of heels, and then at some point just like her legs gave out or whatever. Something happened. She broke her thigh bone, became disabled from that, had to get surgery to fix everything. And then ever since then she's remained disabled. She apparently has a cane, has a wheelchair, and is like, yeah, like I'm disabled. But my coworker does not believe that she is disabled because she has an upstairs, and then her coworker or her sister was like, no, like I can't, like, or she claims that she can't go upstairs, but like, you know, because like it's too painful or whatever. But we have possible evidence that she did at some point go upstairs, because there was an incident about her dog. But but we'll get into it in a second. But yeah, where was I with this story? Oh yeah, okay, so my coworker had her sister living with her, and basically not only did the sister have a hoarding problem, and apparently like my coworker fucking hated her sister's, like, you know, hated that everything was spray painted black, hated that every furniture was super heavy for some reason, and like super ugly is according to what she said. But I also have no idea what my coworker thinks is not ugly, so I'm gonna just take that one with a grain of salt, because I'm like, I just straight up have no idea what you mean by ugly, because I don't have pictures of these, so I can't determine if it's ugly. Basically she was like, trust me, they're ugly, and I'm like, okay. But basically, so this sister was living with her rent-free, and this sister was claiming that she was still disabled, even though she had moments where she was probably not, because not only did she have to move all her shit, like she helped, I think, move like the furniture, and apparently the furniture is too heavy for my coworker. And I feel like if you were disabled, I don't know if you would be able to move those heavy things. And apparently, like, so she eventually moved out, basically blaming California as the reason why she fucking hated like living here or whatever, which is funny. But apparently, like, her dad rented out this like move pod thing that we have. Sometimes you have like people like a storage pod, and they, like, you know, move stuff for you. And then the pod was big enough for a two-bedroom like place or whatever, and apparently she had put in over 2,000 pounds over the limit, and I'm not sure how you can go 2,000 pounds over the limit in those moving pods. I straight up, how do you have 2,000 pounds worth of shit with you? And like that explains why that her sister took so much of her house, that she had taken not only the 2 rooms that she was given, but also the living room and the dining room. And this probably must be a decent sized house for her to have 2,000 pounds worth of crap extra on top of what was already allowed. And I don't even know what the limit of that one is. If we assume 1,000, that's still a billion fucking things. Anyway, so there was that. And she was saying that like oh, what was it in particular? Oh, when her sister was moving out, she was trying to take things that like were furniture that my coworker had bought for the house. So there's like a little like a walk-in closet or something, and there's like some organizers in there. The sister was trying to kidnap those. There was like a little cabinet thing that she had bought for the bathroom because there was no storage space there, and she wanted to have some storage space there. And then the sister was like, oh, well, these were in my room, so of course they belong to me. Except those were in the room before she had moved in, because like there was a period of time where she like didn't move in right away, and then my coworker had gotten this for the house because she was like, you know, interior decorating or whatever, and then she basically had to be like, dude, I'm gonna go tell dad that, like, you know, you're not allowed to leave with my stuff. And so that's eventually what she wound up doing, was that she like, you know, told their dad, because their dad can resolve all the issues apparently within this family. I don't know how this family works, by the way. Because I'm like, it don't work like my house or like how my family do. But then again, my family is not a normal family, so you know what, I do whatever. It sounds like, honestly, like the things I'm hearing just sounds straight up like some weird soap drama thing because I'm like, there's no fucking way, bro. Be real. I'm pretty sure these people are basically what they say they are, because just wait. We're not even at the tip of the iceberg with why we think this person might be faking it, okay? And why she probably might not be a good person, and all sorts of things, okay? I don't know these people on a personal level, but I will trust the person that has known these people way longer than I have. And also knows more about these because they're her siblings. And I feel like I should probably trust her judgment. Because she doesn't sound like a bad person. So basically, she kind of wants my coworker or somebody to get groceries for her. And my coworker basically lined out succinctly what the expectations were, which is, hey, if you want groceries, you will have to come with me when I go grocery shopping, and then you have to pay it for yourself. And it's because she knows that if you give an inch, they'll take a mile. Right? Because it's like one of those things where like she kind of knows that her sister is basically just trying to mooch off things for free. And so she's trying to do her best to basically be like, no, I'm not going to give you handouts. I'm not going to be your caretaker. This isn't going to be a smooth, like, you know, you get to sit around all day doing literally nothing. You have to do some things too if you want to live in my house. And you already, like, this person already doesn't pay rent, already doesn't pay any of the utility bills. They literally are just freeloading, right? And so like just a little bit of like wanting them to do something instead of being a complete freeloader is honestly completely valid in my opinion. And so she was like, yeah, okay, you know, just go ahead, come with me to do grocery shopping. There was an incident where the sister was called up the dad and was complaining like, oh, I've gone 2 weeks without eating anything. I'm starving over here. Insert coworker's name is like, you know, isn't feeding me. There's like nothing to eat here, etc., etc. And then like when my coworker was talking with the dad, she was like, does this sound like me, dad? That like, you know, I'm somebody who would willingly let someone starve in my house. Does it sound like that's gonna be me? And then he's like, no. And then he was trying to look into ways to do like a Instacart, for instance, or whatever it's called, to basically do like free grocery shipping, like regular grocery ships to this place. But unfortunately he was in a different state, so that's not possible. That didn't work out, so she just had to deal with basically you know, if they needed groceries, they had to go with my coworker to get those groceries. And like my coworker was literally like telling me like, yeah, like I had to go to like 3 different Costco's just for her to find the one thing that she wanted, like from a very specific Costco. And then like, you know, she was like, yeah, like I never asked for like gas money or anything for all that, like, you know. And like these Costco's, like there's not that many Costco's in our location. They're pretty far out from one another. So like she must have done a fuck ton of driving to go to 3 different Costco's in my area, because like they're at least like what, 20 minutes apart or something. That shit's not easy. And there's another part too where like the sister was just kind of like super obsessed with She-Ra, but like the old She-Ra. And then apparently there was like some She-Ra themed like playground set thing that she was the sister was bidding on eBay. She had 2 open. She bid on both of these, and she won both of them at like $285 and like 300 something for another one. And guess what? She didn't update her her eBay address. So instead it went to the old place in Oregon. And so she just wasted money. She just quite literally wasted money. And my coworker was like, she seemed really hung up about that. She was like, oh my god, I can't believe she wasted like literally hundreds of money, which I think she's getting like a weekly allowance or something from her dad or something. And literally just spending all that money on literally nothing, and it just literally just disappeared. And also, why are you spending that much for a playground set? What do you even need a playground set for? Where are you gonna put that. And keep in mind, this is a 28-year-old woman that's ordering these things. And like, I get it. I have my hyperfixations. I literally just spent $1 billion ordering a fucking Don Quixote plush from Limbus Company. And I'm probably going to be tariffed to all hell when I try to get that thing shipped over here to the Americas. But I will spend $1 billion getting those plushies. But you know what? At least a plushie I can hold. What am I gonna do with a playground set as a 28-year-old? As like, if I was a 20-year-old woman, what would I do with it? The playground set ain't meant for you. At least a plushie I can hold or like put up in a wall or something and be cute. But like, oh my god. There are other things that my coworker said that this that the sister was doing, which was getting 1 billion tattoos. And she was my coworker said, yeah, our dad doesn't really like tattoos, so the sister was like getting all these tattoos in areas that could be hidden, so like, you know, the legs, maybe like upper arms or something. We can like hide it with like sleeves or like pants and whatever. And the sister was basically saying like, yeah, look, I got all these tattoos for free, is what she was claiming. And she was saying like, you know, I got all these for free because I'm a model for XYZ or whatever. My coworker doesn't believe her because she was like, dude, like I've seen like how expensive these are. The ink isn't that is expensive. They're not doing this for free. There's a high chance she's just wasting money getting tattoos and then lying and saying that she got them for free, even though she's really just wasting dad's money, is basically what I got out of the discussion about this. And I'm like, wow, that's wild. And then I think she also said something about like, I think it was either her or one of her brothers saying like, yeah, I mean, there's no way she's modeled, like the sister is modeling because like she doesn't look that good. And I'm like, okay, hold on, we don't have to go that far. First of all, if you're modeling for a tattoo, it's more about the tattoo rather than, you know, how you look. But, you know, I was like, okay, we don't have to go that far. But that was something that was said. And there was another thing too where she was like, on one of these drives, I'm assuming to like go to a grocery or something. Oh, no, hold on. Before we go there, there was a thing where she was saying, her sister needed to go to like say a Wells Fargo, and she was like, yeah, there's literally a Wells Fargo like 2 blocks away. You can see it if you like get out of my house and look down the street. It's literally right there. She was like, you know, the sister was like, you know, like, hey, you know, like I need to go to Wells Fargo, can you drive me over there? And then my coworker was like, dude, it's like literally 2 blocks away. It's like right there. You can just walk there by yourself. Like we don't have any slopes or anything, so like it shouldn't be hard on the body. Like you can go. And then she's like, no, I can't do it, and like, you know, some excuses. So then my coworker had to unfortunately go drive her to get to do the bidding essentially, and she fucking hated it essentially. And here's the story that I think is really interesting about the sister, right? So both of them apparently had dogs. Apparently the sister had a really big dog because my coworker was afraid that her cat would be eaten by it. I don't know what that means, but apparently that was a thing. And then my coworker has her own dog. I think it's like some sort of like something related to, I believe, not a collie. It's like one of those like sheep herding dogs. It looks really cute. Her dog is really cute, basically. I think it has like 3 different like patterns on it. It's kind of fluffy. Her dog is really cute, essentially. Because I remember seeing a picture of her and of her dog, and I'm like, oh, your dog's so cute. There was a question that the sister posed one day while they were on like a drive somewhere. And the sister basically said like, hey, where do you take your dog during cases of emergencies? And so at the time, my coworker was just like, oh, well, because like she was thinking that it was like maybe a talk to see about, you know, where she should take her dog if her dog ever had an emergency. And she's like, oh, you know, this one location where like I have taken my cats to an emergency, for instance, because it's like probably one of the only 24/7 emergency places we have that's close. And she's like, oh, okay. And she was like, why? Like, do you have like, are you worried that your dog's gonna have an emergency? And she's like, no, I was just wondering, you know. So my coworker's like, okay, all right. And then the next day she goes to work, right? She goes to work She comes back, has her dog do her business, because basically how she runs her dog thing, like how the dog routine is that she takes her dog out to go pee in the backyard and do her business there, so she can like clean up everything at her own place rather than at a, you know, while they're out on a walk. And then afterwards they go out on a walk, you know, across, you know, the neighborhood or whatever. It's just so she doesn't want to pick anything up while she's on the walk and carrying stuff. So okay, fine, right? And then she says that she had her dog do her business, and then as soon as they got back into the house, she looked at her dog and saw that her dog's eyes were like basically going like crazy, like you know, wildly, like, you know, left and right. And she was like, you know, kind of like leaning back a little bit, and kind of like apparently her teeth started chattering like super, like, you know, just like I don't know if it shows very well. I'm like mashing my teeth today. I don't know if you can hear that, but so basically her dog just basically started freaking the fuck out, right? And she was like, whoa, are you okay? Like, what's happening? And keep in mind, this is the day after her sister had asked about, hey, what do you do if your dog has an emergency, right? And also keep in mind, usually when she's at work, her dog is upstairs in a crate, because her dog is not to be trusted to walk around, because like her dog likes to chew on everything that looks edible. So she has her crate trained upstairs, and that's upstairs, right? Which her sister complains or has claimed that she can't go upstairs, which is why she has it downstairs. But anyway, so the dog basically starts freaking the fuck out. My coworker had to go, you know, drop everything, take her dog to the emergency vet and be like, hey, I don't know what's happening with my dog. She got there at like 9 p.m. and then had to wait until 3 a.m. and like her dog got her stomach pumped, and it was during COVID too, so there was like a whole bunch of like procedures with that. It was really a pain in the ass, honestly. And it wasn't until 3 a.m., 6 hours later, when she got contacted and was like, hey, okay, so we suspect that your dog most likely was either given marijuana or an anti-anxiety medication reaction, apparently. Because like they're like, yeah, we usually see this because of, you know, they ate an edible or or something, right? So my coworker doesn't do drugs as far as I know. She's like, no, I don't have marijuana, and I don't take anti-anxiety meds. I have no idea where that would come. But her sister takes anti-anxiety medication. So she went ahead and, you know, went back home, asked her sister about it. Her sister was like, oh, no, I mean, like, yeah, I do take anti-anxiety meds, but like, no, you know, I don't know what would happen to your dog. And also, by the way, keep in mind that while my coworker was like basically like, hey, I have to go take, you know, my dog over to the emergency vet, like her sister seemed very like chill about it, like very like whatever, you know. And like, I don't know about you, but if one of my roommates like suddenly freaks the fuck out and gives a weird reaction like that, I think I would be concerned. But then again, I'm probably a little empathetic and a little bit nosy, so I don't know. But her sister was kind of like, oh, you know, I don't know. And she's like, okay, well, the vets basically told me it could be because of anti-anxiety medication. Did you give my dog anything while I was gone at work? And she's like, oh, no, like I would never do such a thing. Oh, but I know your neighbor smokes a lot of weed, and like maybe they could be throwing it over the fence, and like maybe your dog's eating it or whatever. Or like maybe your dog ate like, you know, something and like, you know, basically got high off of that. Which, first of all, I don't think that's how it works. Second of all, so my coworker was like, okay, and then she goes and calls the vet and is like, hey, so if like my dog ate like someone's like thrown blunt or whatever that's over the fence, will that cause the reaction? And the vet was kind of like, no, it will take a while for it to metabolize within the dog's body for us to see a reaction as strong as that one. So we suspect that actually your dog had ingested whatever this was in the afternoon when my coworker is at work. So it's very possibly interesting. And then so like my coworker tried bringing it up to her sister and be like, hey, like, you know, and she also was like, you know, I don't think there's any way that, like, you know, my dog would even eat something, because like I would know, because I'm watching my dog when she goes out to pee. And so like, and she also knows that like if her neighbor was like throwing shit over the fence, like she would like have known by now, because like they've been like living there for a while, and she like, you know, they understand each other's habits already or whatever. So she's like, no. And basically like I don't think she ever really figured out what it was, but her suspicions are that her sister basically poisoned her dog. Whether it was deliberate or not is suspect. We don't know if it was like intentionally malicious. I think she's trying to give it the benefit of the doubt and basically be like, oh well, maybe my dog was essentially you know, whining and being basically really annoying, and my sister basically thought like, oh, if I give her anti-anxiety meds, maybe she'll calm down. I think that's what her reasoning was. But I'm still just kind of like, either way, she fucking poisoned your dog, dude. Like, because there's no way. There's no way. So then, like, you know, this kind of like makes the whole is she disabled thing kind of questionable, because like she apparently claimed that she can't really go up the stairs too well. But then she made the effort to go upstairs and fuck with her dog, essentially. And then she was saying some other shit that had happened before, like her sister moved out, was basically that at some point her sister went off her medication. I don't know what the medication was for, but she apparently needed medication to be stable, apparently. I don't know what it was, but all I know is that once she was off her medication, weird shit started happening to my coworker that started to make her essentially feel unsafe. There was an incident where she has a basement, and she was, you know, down there taking care of the cats, and then she basically got locked in the basement. And she was telling me that the way that her doors and locks work was that it's not something that can be easily, it's not an accident if you lock somebody in, because there's like, it's like an old Victorian style door or whatever. So basically how it works is that you have these like fancy big ass keys, and you put it into the lock and turn it, and then the key has to stay there, right? Like as the door is open and everything. And if you want to lock it, you have to turn the key and then pull the key out, and that's how it gets locked. So like you have to remove the key to lock the door. And so my coworker was saying that she was just downstairs doing her business in the morning, taking care of the cat down there, and then all of a sudden the basement door is locked. The key is just gone. And she's like, she can't get out typically, but luckily during that case, she actually had work being done in the back of, like, in the backyard or whatever, where it's like some plumbing bullshit or whatever. And there was a back way that she could have left, and that she did leave through, and basically essentially that was the only reason she didn't get trapped in the basement is because there was coincidentally work being done at her location that basically had that avenue open. And then so she, you know, left the basement, went back upstairs, or went back to the front, and then like apparently her sister looked really surprised that like she was there. And then like my coworker was trying to confront her and being like, hey, why the hell was I locked in the basement? And then she's like, oh, I don't know, I didn't do it though. And then she's like, and then like my coworker's like, you know, you literally can't lock these doors regularly, right? And then she was saying the key is literally on the fireplace. Why the fuck is it there when I was in the basement? And they are the only two people living in that house. And so the sister was just like, I don't know, and like basically threw a fit, and basically she was like stomping around and like slamming doors and shit. And I'm just like, oh my god. I can't believe that she had to deal with this shit first of all. And then she was telling me like, what is it? There was like something else that she was telling me. Oh yeah, like during this whole, you know, while her sister was being unmedicated and like, you know, off her rocker essentially, apparently it came to light that her sister had guns in the house, unmedicated. And she was like, why the fuck are there guns in my house? And why the fuck do you want to have them? And then like I think it was like something about like, oh, she was claiming that like, you know, their dad gave it to her. It's like an heirloom or whatever. They're really important, stuff like that. And then so like my coworker called up the dad and was like, hey, why the fuck does she have guns here? I don't feel comfortable with her having guns in my house, especially since she's unmedicated. She's clearly not well. She's clearly not stable enough. And the dad was like, oh, well, chances are she didn't maintain the guns, so they probably won't even work properly. So like, it's fine. And she's like, no, it's not fine. This is my house. I don't feel comfortable with her having guns in my house while she's like this. And all sorts of things. So she was like, I'm going to give you guys 2 weeks. 2 weeks to either pick up the guns or I'm calling the police and getting them removed. And so she gave them 2 weeks and then nobody came for the guns. And so she went ahead and was like, okay, I'm calling the police. I don't want these guns in my house. So she did call the police to remove the guns from her house. And then apparently people were giving a shit about it because they're like, oh, you're like overreacting and all that things. And I'm like, no, I don't think you're overreacting because like, I don't know, maybe I watched one too many true crime, but like usually problems happen because there's a weapon in the house. And she's like, yeah, I basically didn't want to be like, you know, like shot at in my sleep or shot at because like she mistook me as like a stranger or something. Stuff like that. And I'm just like, that's wild stuff. But yeah, anyway, and I think shortly after that, I think that's when the sister kind of like, you know, was like, you know what, I fucking hate California, I'm gonna go back to Virginia or whatever. And so she eventually did go to Virginia. And the reason why she went back to Virginia was because apparently that's where her ex was. That's where her ex lived. And her ex, by the way, at this time already had a new girlfriend. And so she's living in a situation where she essentially, in my opinion, either a cuck situation or like some weird ass harem situation where it's this one guy, 2 girls, and I think as my coworker said that it seemed like the dude seemed to really like the fact that there were 2 girls fighting over him. Because like he allowed his ex to stay with him despite him having a girlfriend already. So like clearly there was something there. And then my coworker was also saying that the boyfriend didn't look all that hot in her opinion. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what this means, but okay. And then it turns out that like, you know, they got into scuffles like because like, you know, the sister did not like the new girlfriend. And then apparently you know, to make this trip, by the way, from California to Virginia, my coworker's brother, who's the engineer, who's like super rich and whatever, he straight up just got this sister a brand new fucking $30,000+ car. And that sister, by the way, was throwing a fit because she was upset she couldn't pick out the color. But she got a free fucking car. But she was upset, you know. But I was like, oh, can she even drive? And she's like, yeah, she could drive. And apparently she had like, apparently in her last car, she had a truck. And in that truck, she never took care of it, so she never changed the oil. She never even probably had oil in there. She never even did any tune-ups or anything. So by the time that car drove from Oregon to California, that shit like broke down essentially because the engines got fucked because there's no car oil, like engine oil, to like take care of things there. So there was that. Yeah, so she got a brand new car, complained that it wasn't a color that she wanted to pick out, but then she eventually did, you know, drive all the way to Virginia. And then that car is also not completely in her name yet. It's still in the brother's name because I don't think they transferred everything quite yet or whatever. I don't know the details on that. But while she had that car in Virginia, I guess her and that girlfriend got into an argument and she tried to run that girl down with the car. So, you know, just casual people things, I suppose. Casually trying to run people down with your car. Okay. This yap session is just one long bruh moment because do you understand now why I was talking with my coworker for 2 hours straight? Because this shit was fascinating to me, because I'm like, I've never ever had a family that was like this fucking dramatic. This is like straight up, if you told me this came from a drama show, I would believe it. I refuse to believe this is real, but apparently it is. But yeah, it was some wild shit, bro. And I was like, okay. And then we got onto the topic of like, what was the other? We had like one more topic. I forgot what her crazy fucking neighbor, dude. Okay. This might be a slightly long one too, because like she has been telling me about her crazy neighbor who like lives right next to her house, right? Obviously because they're neighbors. I think they share like a fence, and I think they share a driveway or something. This neighbor is like some old ass lady, and she fucking hates my coworker and calls my coworker basically white trash. By the way, both of these people are white. So I think it's funny that another white person is calling another white person trash, but you know, I don't know how that works, but life be like that. So that old lady is calling my coworker white trash. The old lady basically, so like my coworker is a little bit on the bigger side, so the old lady makes like pig noises, like you know, it's like snorting noises and like, you know, or whatever. Like every time that my coworker is like, you know, leaving the house or, you know, outside doing her own thing, like that old lady is basically being as immature as you can be. She's essentially just trying to bully the shit out of my coworker for just existing. They had disagreements early on, and they still obviously have disagreements now. And basically like things have just been kind of been like, you know, kind of like the old lady's trying to be like passive aggressive, like trying to basically antagonize my coworker in any way that she can, within like her legal limits of what she can do, give or take some. Like some past things that they have fought about was that like there's been some instances where like say they're doing like yard work or something, and the old lady is like throwing stuff over her fence into my coworker's side of the property. She has complained about that to the city. And I've never once have heard somebody ever complain anything to the city before, but apparently this is a thing that they do over there. And I'm just like, this is honestly the reason why I'm afraid of being a homeowner. Okay, like it's just listening to her stories, because I'm like, what if I get a shitty neighbor? And the elder lady is basically just kind of like, oh yeah, like, you know, I've been living in this location for over 20 years and I want you to move the fuck out. Like, and she's like making like fun of like, you know, how you know, because like apparently my coworker has inherited a house that has a really beautiful rose theme about it. Like there's a billion roses in her garden, like her like front and backyard. And then her the old lady was basically like, yeah, you're like ruining this shit, like so ugly, and all sorts of like whatever weird shit she wants to claim. And that actually prompted my coworker to learn how to like garden really well, because she basically wants to like shove it to the old lady and be like, nuh-uh, like fuck you, you're full of shit. She's I think I'm concluding she's kind of low-key motivated by spite. I don't think she's ever said that, but in retrospect, me recalling her stories, I think she's motivated by spite. It's really funny, actually. I love that for her. And so she even went so far as to like talk to actual like legit gardeners like across the street or whatever, to ask them for like how to garden, like, or how to caretake roses even better. And like, you know, so she like went out of her way to like learn gardening. It's kind of wild. And her roses, like she has shared, like she has clipped some and then brought some back to work and like gave them to people. They are really beautiful and really fragrant roses. It's just I'm so bad at taking care of flowers that like I'm just sad whenever they die, TBH. There's some issues where like, you know, decorations, for instance, because like my coworker loves decorating things for like the holidays or the seasons. So like say Valentine's Day, she put like gaudy like hearts and shit, like in her mirror, in her windows and things. And she told me she did it because she knows it's gonna piss off the old lady. So like she just like leaves a whole bunch of shit like within the windowsills, essentially just to be an eyesore to the old lady who fucking hates her. And I was just like, that's so fucking funny. But she was basically telling me like that even like even when she gets home, for instance, so she like drives up to their shared driveway, and then she like, you know, is going back to her house. Apparently, as she's like parking and like getting out of the car and going to her front door, her neighbor is at her bedroom door or at her bedroom window, and then like it's like one of those like sliding like what is it, probably like those horizontal blinds that kind of like slide open or whatever. So every time that she comes home, this old lady is already waiting by that window and then just slowly opens the blinds and then just fucking stares at my coworker as she's going home. And apparently this happens like every day or something. And I'm like, that's kind of really creepy. Because this old lady is just dead ass, like has nothing better to do with her life than wait for my coworker to come home to start like antagonizing her. So the reason why she brought her up this time was because apparently what had happened was that, so she went to go take her dog out for a walk, right? And during this time, her elderly neighbor was leaf blowing leaves into my coworker's side of the property. And then some random person, just some random lady driving in a car, was passing by, stopped, and then looked at the old lady and started telling her, hey, you can't do that because like that's illegal or whatever. And like, this is just some random ass lady, okay? This is some random ass lady just suddenly butting into other people's businesses and is like, hey, you can't do that to the old lady. And the old lady is like, was all like, oh no, like, you know, I'm not breaking anything, like I've been here for 20 years, whatever. And then the person in the car, but who's basically another Karen at this point, was like, no, I know the ordinances, you can't do that. And like, I joked like the only way that she would know these ordinances is if she's an HOA lady. There's no fucking way a random person would know what this is unless you're part of the HOA or want to be part of the HOA, okay? Because like I mean I figure it's, in some ways it is illegal, but like I have no idea. Like, and so basically this random lady in the car is fucking arguing with the old lady and basically being like, and they're both like, apparently like the lady in the car was like, I have been here for 30 years and I know what you're doing is illegal. And like, so basically there's just these two Karens just arguing and cussing each other out because like because of essentially like the old lady just doesn't want to admit that she's doing something illegal. And so like, and apparently my coworker was like coming back from her walk and she was just watching this conversation from a distance because she could hear them because they're screaming so loud from like down the block or whatever. And she was like, what the fuck? Even her dog didn't want to go back to the house, and so she just like loitered near like, I guess, a library or whatever, like a library parking lot, and just like, which I guess must be near her, and she was just loitering there, and she said that she wished she brought her phone so she could record everything. And I was like, damn, why didn't you bring your phone? I would have that on me at all times, bro. But anyway, so apparently that happened, and then eventually the lady in the car drove off. And then apparently when the lady in the car drove off, she went ahead and complained to the city. She told the city, hey, there's this one old lady, blah, 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 and basically reported the old lady for essentially doing something illegal. And then apparently this is that old lady's last warning, because like my coworker had already like reported this old lady like a billion times, right? And I'm pretty sure the city didn't intervene at the time because they just thought, oh, it's just two neighbors, like, you know, she said basically. So, you know, they can't really fault anyone, so they're just kind of like, you know, basically kind of pointing it out as like a just possibly a petty squabble, right? But then you have this completely unrelated party just waltz on in and be like, nah, this shit is illegal, she cussed me out, she's completely rude, etc., whatever. And then so the city, like, and you know, when the city first contacted the old lady, they're like, the old lady was like, oh no, it's just like my white trash neighbor or whatever that must be making the complaint. And they're like, no, this is a completely unrelated person. And that's how like they made the connection that it was the lady in the car that was fucking arguing with her that had made the report. and so apparently like the city basically told the old lady like, hey, by the way, you're gonna get fined if you get reported again, and by the way, we can also fine you for everything retroactively as well. And so I think at that point, I think now the old neighbor might have to be on her best behavior, but we'll see. I've been kind of low-key like invested into the story like of her and her neighbor, because like this shit has been going on for like at least 2 years, guys. It's been going on for at least 2 years, and it's some wacky shit. I'm being for real, and I'm just like, what the fuck? So yeah, that basically concluded like my 2-hour like yap session with her. She was obviously much more in detail about it because she like, you know, she like need more details and whatever. But at the same time, I'm just like, dude, is everything okay? Like, there's like, and she, by the way, she like was talking so nonchalantly about this, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know how she has the patience of a saint, but she told me that she was raised with like 8 other siblings and whatever, who all like I think try to pick on her when growing up. So I think she just learned how to essentially deal with bullshit. And I'm like, oh my god. I don't know how you do it, because like I think I would have lost my mind, bro. Not gonna lie, I'd smile at her knowing I know she's gonna be 6 feet under before me for real. That's basically what she does. Is that like my coworker is basically just like, yeah, you know, it's fine. I act nice to her because I know it's gonna piss her off, and I'm like, okay, if you say so. Best way to fight Karen is use another Karen. Yeah, especially because my coworker is not really a Karen herself, because she doesn't want to do confrontation, but she is petty, so. But like in a silly way. But yeah, so that's the story with my coworker. Shit was really silly. Because I'm just like, whoa. And also like if I think about it, I don't know how she knows all these details. But like I also don't think she's making it up, because like she's literally been having this beef with this neighbor for like literally years. And I'm like, I don't think she's making this shit up. Some wild stuff. But yeah, that's really about it with the 2-hour conversation with my coworker. And so that's just me retelling it, because I was like, this is too wild to like not share, TBH.